Hi, welcome to Maggie Chats Books. Today I'm going to do my week 3 science fiction wrap-up. This week I read 2 novels and 3 short stories. The first novel I read was John Scalzi's debut novel called Old Man's War. It's the first in a series of, I believe, 8 novels. This story takes place in the future. On Earth, life is pretty much continuing as normal, but we have been able to colonize other planets, and other species also want to colonize these planets, so there's intergalactic wars happening, although life on Earth is pretty peaceful. What happens is when you turn 75, you have the choice of becoming a military member to fight in these intergalactic wars. And many people signed up for them because there is a rumor that you get a new lease on life, a younger body, or surgery to make you younger. So our protagonist, John Perry, decides that he is going to be signing up for the military. His wife has passed away and he only has a son on Earth, and he has kind of made his peace with his son. If you decide to join the military, you are pronounced dead on Earth, and then you serve your military time, and when you are through with your military time, you are given a space on another colony on another planet, and you're able to continue your life, and you pretty much start anew. So that is the basis of the story. It is really good. There are a lot of battle scenes, but not too gory. There are some really good characters. In some ways this is character driven, although there are a lot of plot points within the story. It is one that I felt was a good story to stand on its own, as well as continue with the series. So I really enjoyed it, and I gave that one 4 stars. The next book I read was Binti Home by Nnedi Okorafor, and this is the second book in the Binti series. I really enjoyed the first book, and I have to say this book I enjoyed even more. This takes Binti back home. I don't want to say too much if you haven't read the first book, but this one takes her back to Africa from the planet that she was going to school on. She is with her family again. You get to know more of her culture, more of their beliefs, and how they interact with other people in their community, and also other people in Africa that surround them. She is, with both books, very connected to the earth, and you get to hear more about that. Binti has a plan for herself. When she gets to Earth, it doesn't really pan out, and that's probably the best part of the story, is how she, as a 17-year-old now, deals with changes to her life that she didn't plan out, and also how her family reacts to what she has chosen to do. So this is a really good book. The ending is kind of a cliffhanger ending, which I didn't care for, but I still think this is a 5-star book, and I really enjoyed it. So anxious to read the next ones, can't wait till they come out. The 3 short stories that I read were ones trying to find books for the Sci-Fi challenge that Beckie at Beckie Bookworm started, and one of the requirements was to find a book that was written before 2000. So I went looking for new authors, because most of the authors I read are from the 2000s. There's a couple of 1990s, but I didn't want to reread anything, so I looked for new authors. And one author I found was a person that's very known for their science fiction, though I'd never heard of him, and it's Robert A. Heinlein. And he is a man that was born in 1908. He died in 1988, I believe, and he wrote a lot of novels that were pretty much before his time. The first short story I read of his was called It's Great to Be Back. It was published in the Saturday Evening Post in July of 1947. It is about a couple that lives on the moon, or in the moon as it is. There are tunnels within the moon that people have built sleeping quarters and places where they grow plants that create oxygen and things like that. But the couple is tired of living in the moon, and they decide to go back to Earth. When they get back to Earth, it isn't what they thought it was going to be. They've been on the moon for 3 years. They're experiencing some fatigue because of their bodies not being used to the gravity, but also Earth isn't as great as they thought it was. So it's only about 20 pages. I thought it was a really good read. He's very much ahead of his time for 1947. It's funny because when they look at Earth, they say it's green, And when we see images of the Earth now from satellites and from rockets and things like that, we know it's blue and white. He also has taxis, which are helicopters, which I think was kind of cute for that time. They have communication devices. This author was also known for kind of inventing a device that is similar to the cell phone in his books, and also describing what is now a modern day waterbed. So he was pretty much ahead of his time, kind of like Jules Verne in that respect. I read another book by him, and it was Space Jockey. This is the story of a pilot who pilots spaceships from Earth to the moon or other stations that get people to other planets. He is a co-pilot. He's on call all the time. He really doesn't enjoy his job too much. He wants to find a job where he's not on call, where he just has a set schedule. And this story, rather than being more science fiction, was more about the relationship with him and his wife. She is a very traditional woman in the 1940s, which is one that stays home. She takes care of the house. She misses her husband, so she wants him to stay home and not have this job. So it's how they deal with that, and it's just one mission that he goes on in the 20 pages of the story. This one was nice as well. The kind of funny parts that I found in this were you are charged by pound when you go into space, so it's $30 per pound, which is pretty cheap to go into space. And also that he refers to talking to his computer, which is a person who computes using a mainframe computer, which takes up a whole room. Again, he had a lot of things that are now commonplace in his books and just called something different. I recommend reading him if you like science fiction, especially kind of little snippets of life. They reminded me some of watching Twilight Zone episodes where you kind of just get this little piece of a story. It has a beginning and an end, but there's not a whole lot of character development, not a huge plot to the story, but quite good. And the last short story I read was Goodnight Moons by Klages. This story was in the best science fiction fantasy of the year for 2012. It is a story of a woman who all her life has wanted to go to Mars. She's given the opportunity to go to Mars, and when she gets to Mars, she finds out that she's pregnant, and it's just what ensues there. It is very, very short. It gives you some questions about how your decisions may change based on things in your life that you weren't expecting, and I thought it was really good. It was too short to really have anything beyond dealing with having a baby. You didn't hear much about Mars. You didn't hear much about her as a character, but I still think it was good, and it could be one that was expanded. I know there's a movie now coming out where a boy was born on Mars and he tries to come back or something like that. Good subject, I thought. So for this week, I think I'd had good luck with all the stories that I read. I got to read a couple new authors I hadn't read before. Also started a new series, which I didn't intend to do, but I think Old Man's War is going to be one that I'll continue that series. There are a couple more books I want to read in the science fiction genre, and I have a week left of my science fiction September to do that. I think I've completed all the books I needed for my science fiction challenge that Beckie at Beckie's Bookworm started. And the book I'll be starting this week, or today actually, is N.K. Jemisin's The Obelisk Gate. So that is all for week 3. I hope you enjoyed it. I will talk to you later. Goodbye.